There's a couple of different sorts that I can think of. There's the combative, more public, where people have watched on. Maybe someone's disagreed with me publicly. And there's maybe a more passive, harder one to pick, where people may not turn up to something I've planned and I thought they were going to, or they just go and do their own thing. I don't know, you might call it passive aggressive. So I think two different kinds of conflict that I can think of off the top of my head, and I'd go about them differently. But like the first thing is just what it does in me. I think is actually good to just stop and notice. So over the years, I've tended to just think my reactions are the right ones. I am angry, therefore I must be right, they must be wrong. And so no, I don't think that anymore. I realise I have reactions because of a whole lot of reasons, and I need to actually slow down and reflect on them. And there's all sorts. Pride, I often have a sense of pride about what, if it's public, I'm worrying now about what others think of me. I've noticed fear, and it's almost like a fear that someone's exposed me to be like a fraud or not really qualified for this job, which really undermines my confidence. And I do get this sense of like, should I even be doing this? Are we even doing the right thing? All sorts of doubts come in. I can have fight or flight or both. That kind of anger, I can feel quite aggressive, and if I speak back in that moment, I'm very rude and cutting, so I have to not speak. And I notice I think very bad thoughts of people. I do lots of justifying of my position and lots of bad reasons why they're such a bad person. But flight, I have noticed sometimes I just do this thing in my head where I'm like, well, look, just blow them. I'm not doing it. Like I do all this stuff and I kind of go through this self-pity. I'm doing all this, and look what they're doing, and well, I'm just going to drop it. So that's kind of a flight. So there you go. It's like every sinful thing that ever is in me just comes up.
So being aware of your reaction.
So you have to slow down. Yeah. I do two things. I kind of am bemused at myself as I see all this and horrified at the same time. So the next thing that I do is now just go straight to God with it. And it's not even particularly I know what to pray for. It's more just going, I'm a mess. You know, I'm feeling all these things. I don't know what to do with that. I don't even know how to be the right person. And just give it to God. And I find that's quite helpful. You know, help, I'm a disaster. But then over the years, I have actually developed clearer thinking about what to do with a conflict, what action to take. And it's different depending on whether it's a public one or this other more covert one that I was talking about. So if it's more public, a couple of things that have been helpful. One is to ask the person perhaps, say they've said, you're wrong, or that verse is wrong, or your plan is the wrong one. Ask the person, why do you think that? And be clear that I do understand their thinking, and even say it to be sure that I do. And it does a few things. It slows things down, but also helps the person get that I do get them. And that actually helps me too, because sometimes I can flare up because I've misunderstood. So it's helpful on so many levels. And so that question, why do you think that? And then I've found it helpful to then sort of broaden it to the group that's there or the public, people watching, and go, well, what do others think? Not to gang up, but just it brings in other perspectives, which is helpful for us both. Again, it slows things down and gives me time to think. And it stops it being just a me versus this person kind of interaction, and just kind of diffuses it amongst many people. So those two things have been really helpful. And I have noticed over the years, I feel a lot more confident when I get, one of these contradictory or hostile things. I feel like, I know what to do, and it'll be okay. We'll get through this. So they're good tips that I've learned over the years. And I think to those verses, 1 Timothy, a wife of an overseer should be temperate and controlled. And that really, I think, helps me try and be that person, be temperate, not just flare up.
It sets your expectations.
Yes. Now, if the situation is that someone's pushing against me, but it feels very indirect and I can't actually discuss it with them, like they're just going off and doing their own thing or just not doing something or just not turning up. What I've done is I go and check with the leadership, who I'm trying to follow and who's over me, and say, look, is this the right thing? Like, they're not, should I be doing this? And get someone else's viewpoint. And am I the one to do this? And that actually helps me either get a different perspective that no, there's more ways to do this, or it's okay for them to do that, or the other, some confidence. No, what you're doing is right. Keep doing it. Don't get all worried and not do it. Don't get insecure. So once I've checked that I am the one to do it and that this is the right thing to do, then I might, if ideally, I would go and talk to the person and I'd ask them, look, how are you feeling about this thing? I may find out there's no problems and I was just misunderstanding, but I may find out that they're not happy with it. So how are you feeling? How is this for you? What's made you do this thing? And then say to them, look, what I'm hoping is this. This is why I want to do this thing. And hopefully I've got some good, tangible gospel reasons for it. Invite them. Can you do that? Would you like to join me? Now, that's the ideal, I think. And I just can think of a few times where I may have done that, but I can think of times where I still can't do that. I can think of conflicts now that I haven't resolved. People are still doing their own thing, and I've not yet been in a good place to go and have this conversation in that kind of lovely way. And it's because there's still too much anger in me. So I think it's good to actually not try and have that conversation, because if there's anger and a sense of resentment to the person, then it won't go well. I think it'll come from a bad place. Sometimes you might actually need another person to have that conversation for you. And I think I'm at that level where, with a couple of people, where I need to say to the leadership, look, I'm just not going to do it well. Could you do it for me? Because they'll be gentle, they'll be mild, they won't be emotionally involved, and it'll just go so much better. So the big principle there is I think we're about serving people. So you think of Philippians 2, that we're to be like Jesus. We're to put the needs of others before our own. We're actually to find out what is this about for them, and how can I serve their interests? Still want to hold the gospel line that that might be the right one for you to stick to, but be aware too, they may have some good, be listening for, do you have to change? Have they got some good points that you should, compromise your position because of? So the interests of the other before your own. So valuing them before your own. It's quite a kind of, it's about them, not me. So that's quite difficult to do. That's the ideal. And so I think, I know the couple of situations where I can't quite do that, but I think in those ones, praying is really good. If I was to keep praying, Lord, I've got this problem with this person, help. Please keep helping me be what I should be for her. Help me work out what's going on. All these prayers would be good ones. And I know God, because I've done it in the past, I prayed those prayers and he does answer them. So I just need to do that. So praying, because he does change things. There's a bit of wisdom from Jenny Brown that I think is quite helpful, that Growing Yourself Up book. Frequent, small social contact. Like, don't run away from the person, don't avoid them. Just have frequent, small social contact. And I think that's a little bit about loving the person, putting their needs first. I think that's the biblical principle behind that. I think that's a good tip. And again, I struggle in a couple of situations to do that. So I think Matthew 5, it's such a challenge when, Jesus says you're to love your enemies, you're to love people that persecute you. And I'm not even talking outside the church, I'm talking within the church. People that persecute you, you're to love them. And don't think you're so great because you love the people that are nice to you and that are your friends. Pagans do that. That's not hard. Where we've got to be different is we've got to love people that are difficult to love and who persecute us. So I think that's a real challenge. But it means that when we're doing it, we're doing something vaguely Christian, and that's where we're different. So, yeah, think about Jesus, think about what he did, and, yeah, we need to just be reckless about ourselves and just love people well. So I'm not doing it well, but that's what I should be doing.